start off with, the thing is, I feel really strange yet overwhelming to be here today. The thing is, I've never quite been a public speaker. People have often put me into boxes labeled as an introvert, and they say, oh, you're an introvert, you're probably shy, you don't talk, and you want to be in your own comfort zone, and so on. So I'd really like to thank MIT for giving me this platform to speak about something that's been so close to my heart. To start off with, I would want to ask you guys a question or two. When was the last time a story really helped you learn something about a new place, a place that you would never known otherwise? Or have there been any books that have really altered your stereotypes about a particular culture or someone coming from that culture? For example, I'm hoping that there's someone out there who doesn't think that all Indians wobble their head and that all Muslims don't want to blow up places. So, recently I came across this quote by Darren Harry from his book, The Compound Effect. He says, "It's not the big things that add up in the end. It's the hundreds, thousands, and million little things that really separate the ordinary from the extraordinary." And I think this connects to a wide range of things in our personal and professional lives. For me, it has, for that matter. And for me, I'm going to talk about more in the context of literature. But to start off with, I want to say change. For example, when you're young, you've often been told stories about people who've changed the world. And when I was small, I'd look at these or I'd read about these stories and I'd be like, how is that possible, man? It's just one person. How can one person change the world? It was something that my normal self could only read about. But eventually, as you grow up and you realize a lot of things, I realized that change actually works like a ripple effect. One thing leads to another, and the dots connect to something as a whole. And this actually takes me back to my advertising classes when they would tell us that, word of mouth strategy, it takes a lot of time, but it's the most effective part of communication. One person says to another and another. And by the way, that was the same time we actually found out that men actually speak more than women, and that the word of mouth strategy works best with them. So, and the thing is, I also realized that changing the world is actually as subjective as it can get, which takes me back to one of my favorite books, One Day by David Nicholas, and he talks about his female character, which is played by Anna Hathaway in the movie. He says, "The trick of it," she told herself, "is to be courageous, bold, and make a difference. Not really change the world, but just the bit around you." And ever since, that bit has stuck with me. So, why am I really talking about ripple effects and everything? The thing is, back in college, 2 years ago, one of my seniors and mentor, Karthikeya Bajpai, started off the literary magazine, The Bombay Review. Initially, it was just, he was a literature fan and he wants to be a writer, so he thought, I'm going to collect few stories and a few poems and I'll circulate it around college. But printing costs money, so he thought, okay, I'll just do it online and start a literary journal. And as it turns out, in India, there are very few literary journals. So he started the Bombay Review. And my journey really began with the magazine with just helping out. And I had a knack for social media at that point, so people were like, oh, you can help out, set up the Facebook page, Twitter, and it goes on. But as a lover of words and books, I wanted to help out more. And eventually, I started doing different things for the magazine. And now we also do events across the world. And this is how it started, really. We thought, let's have an event. There are not many literary events here. So we had an event in a little neighborhood cafe. A neighborhood cafe. This was our first event, where we would design little handmade notebooks and bookmarks, and we did our own storytelling workshops with people. About 50 to 60 people turned up. We had a wall of quotes, and it was really interesting. It was just a thing we did for satisfaction because we just wanted to do it, and I really liked organizing such events. And today, I can't believe that there are volunteers who, around the world, people who have submitted to us, people who have contacted us through internet and have told us, is there something we can do? Because even they want to change the literature scenario in their country. And as a matter of fact, we've had people from Nigeria and UK, Japan, Ireland. Right now, we're actually on a 5-country summer tour. And at that point, when I did my first event, I would have never thought that it could be this. So ripple effects, shared passion, shared across continents and countries. So, often I've had this debate with people who go like, what's the point of literature, man? Why are you so into all of this? And with my experience with the magazine and with my childhood moments with books, I realized that there's just so much. What is the point of literature? As a matter of fact, science tells us that we are consumed by everything that surrounds us, the books we choose to read, the music we listen to, the people we surround ourselves with and talk to. It all consumes us. Intellectually, I'm speaking, because we also consume pizza and burgers and so on. And the thing is, when you're reading a book, you are connecting with the author. The author doesn't have to be, you know, there's a time when you would be reading a book and or you come across a good piece of poetry and you think like, man, this person so gets me. And in that moment, it doesn't quite matter who that author is or where he comes from, whether it's a he or a she, it doesn't matter. And that's the beauty of literature. The fact that we can connect despite having cultural barriers. Because, as it turns out, human beings may differ in nature, behavior, color, religion, etc. We still universally feel the same things like happiness, sadness, guilt, pleasure, among other emotions. So when you're really reading a book, you connect with the author based on the emotions she describes in the experience and the story, and that's how you're able to understand the author. And I think this is so important because in the diverse world we live in, it's really important to read diverse books and really understand each other because it's what brings us together. Which takes me back to our first and most ambitious cross-border project. It was the Indo-Pak Project, which happened in April, where we thought, let's have a themed issue. People from India and Pakistan would submit stories, and these were not 1947 or partition stories. They were just day-to-day stories that we read about. And people submitted different stories, and at the same time, we also decided we'll have simultaneous events, Lahore and in Bombay, happening at the same time. And luckily, we got in touch with really passionate literature people, and they were ready to do this for us. And we had a live event, both taking place in Lahore and Bombay. And the common theme was South Asian literature and cross-border collaboration. And it was really overwhelming because we started discussions on Indian literature, Pakistani literature, and the impact it has on people's perspective in the world. In fact, there was this one lady in the audience who tells us that a friend of hers from a foreign land did not attend her wedding in India because she had read some negative book and she was really scared to come to India. And I was like, wow, that is the power of literature. And she also told me that, I don't really believe in journalism and stuff because, journalists are biased sometimes. There are so many political agendas these days that they have to be in par with. So I trust in fiction. And that's really powerful because fiction is the truth. Within fiction, you find the truth, whether it's about a character coming from a different place or little stories about a nukkar and their gullies. It all intertwines into fiction and poetry and really allows us to understand the different places and people. It's no wonder that science says that people who read are usually more empathetic, they understand people and are more aware of people's emotions. I'm sorry if there are any non-readers here. Okay. And so, recently, why the whole thing about culture and connecting people through different cultures came to me when we just started working on our international anthology, which is a collection of short fiction and poetry coming from 45 different writers from all these 31 countries. Like there are places like Bulgaria and Albania where I never thought people would submit. And so all these people have been submitting stories. And the book is a collection of that. And while putting this book together, I thought, the book is divided into several sections of each country and followed by their stories. And I thought, let's give our readers a flavor, a glimpse of that country before they start reading the story. It could be one of their most famous authors, a quote from their favorite authors, or something about the place, its people, its culture, anything. So we researched for a couple of days, and I found out, so there are these sample ones I have. And, if you're going to read this without the name of the country and the author, it turns out that you really can't tell where this person's coming from. And that's such a beautiful part of literature because we all feel the same things. The only things that really differ are our cultural references, the interpretations we have of different things, the terminologies and language. But at the end, we all can still connect. And that is such a beautiful thing, I feel. So I would like to leave you all with this one thought that I had while discussing poetry and its impact on social dialogue. Because nowadays there are a lot of people out there who are doing spoken word poetry to bring about issues, social issues. And here's a thought that crossed my mind. You know, it's not like one poem or one story out there is completely going to wipe away your stereotypes, or one book is going to change the world. It doesn't work that way. But collectively, when you read different books, different kinds of stories, it really helps, you know. It helps you learn about different people, different religions, different societies, and how their mindset might be. And the thing is, it plants a mature and global citizenry thought in your head. And I think just having that thought is enough to begin with. It may lead to impact somewhere. And even if it's just in your mindset, that's a very important thing, I feel. Thank you.